Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is my favorite time of the month. This is when we give our supporters, our members, our wonderful women in our network, we are giving back to you a gift of personal and professional development. And that is the meaning behind our leadership series. So I am super excited about today. You are going to hear buzzwords like your superpower, creative love story, living your life with purpose. And these are all things that speak directly to my heart. And I know as Policy Circle women, they speak to your heart as well, because that is what motivates you, leaving the world a better place than it was yesterday and moving the world forward in a positive direction. So thank you for joining us and being here to hear from our wonderful expert, Lindria. And I'm so excited to introduce you to her. She is the principal of LR Brand Consultants, and she has a podcast. Let me read it so I don't mess this up. It is Next Level Brand Behavior Podcast. And I listened to one yesterday, loved it, felt inspired by it because she speaks to women about what they're doing and how they have found their purpose in life. And that journey is different for every single person. And she really speaks to how each person is unique and how that is special to the world, that when we bring our unique superpower to the world, we live with purpose and we live happier lives and we make the world a better place. So with that, I would like to introduce you to Lindria, who I said is the principal and the founder of LR Brand Consultants. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Judy. I'm so excited to be here. So it's an honor to be amongst such amazing women and leaders. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. You're right. And I'm glad that you said that, because this is you today are a gift to our leaders, because you are going to impart wisdom and joy. There's always joy when I speak to you. So I always love that. And so I wanted to just kind of let the ladies know a little bit more about you in particular. So what is your story? What is your creative love story?
Oh, my creative love story. Oh goodness, I can talk about this all day, but I won't bore you out my entire story. But I always like to start to say that I'm a creative enthusiast with an obsession with brand development. I like to always start with that, and I have a heart for good. And I would say that it's been like that as long as I can remember, since I was a child. And I've always loved to see the good in people and really get down to the core of who they are. My background, I actually studied graphic design in college, and I studied integrated marketing at the University of Chicago. Sorry, I got a little tongue tied there because I also teach inclusive brand marketing at the University of Chicago too. So sometimes I get the two kind of confused. But I think once I started to get into my career and started to meet different people, I felt that a lot of people would come to me asking me for services to make them look good. So when we think about graphic design, we think about the outer appearance, right? Some people would say, can you just make this look pretty? And I said, so I don't make things look pretty. It just didn't resonate with me. And I thought it was very surface-like. And so I really developed a passion and love for getting below the surface, really seeing the value beneath the surface and asking hard questions as to, why did you choose this color? How does that relate to your personality? How does that relate to your business? I started to ask questions that people weren't as familiar with, and they really didn't hire me for. They didn't hire me for that. But I started to kind of dive deeper into kind of understanding how people behave, how they move, and why they do what they do, their interests, their love. And I think that when you understand human behavior, you can encourage them and inspire them to really activate who they are in an authentic way, and connect in an authentic way. And so I love doing that with people, with personal brands. And I also love doing it with business brands too, because people run businesses and businesses serve people. And so I think sometimes we don't think of businesses as human brands, but they are. They are. You have to connect with people in a human way. And so I started to shift my business and my purpose to really seeing people and their businesses beyond the surface and really identifying how do you make an authentic connection with people, because I do value authenticity. And, that's a little bit of who I am. I went from being a director of marketing and brand development in an organization and being able to connect. I think the work that I did there with connecting people with different brands like the NBA and Google and really telling the stories of youth. And I love storytelling because it's really an emotional connection. I went from doing all of that to really running my own agency and being able to broaden my connection with people and broaden who I serve and who I help. I wanted to increase my reach in that way and better serve my gift in that way. I think that we're all given assignments and we just have to know when it's time to move to our next assignment. And so this is my next assignment. I'm activating my values with being valuing creativity and integrity and authenticity and being a good steward. I really value being a good steward. You hear stewardship a lot in finances, but I think you have to be a good steward of yourself and of your personal brand. And so I value good stewardship, and I absolutely value just diversity and inclusion, because I think you need diverse people at the table. You need inclusive voices, because how do you know how to serve people if you don't know people? You have to get to know people. So we need to have different people at the table to have these type of discussions. So that's my long spiel about who I am.
Love it. I love it. And I love that it's when we talk about storytelling is a journey, right? There's the beginning and the middle and really until you die, the story isn't over, right? So we're always there are new chapters in our story. And that's what I really enjoyed about the podcast when I was listening to it was, we were going through I was listening to Brittany Oliver's story. And then even your story, like how you start, you go to college and the story starts, but as you matured, as you started looking inward and really seeing, wait, what am I really good at? Like finding that superpower. And ladies, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about, she's going to run us through a workshop to find our superpower and to create our love story. So I love that journey, that thought journey, and that we need to really, slow down and say, wait, what is it that I'm really good at? Because where is my life going to serve the best purpose right now? And we were, Lindria and I were talking yesterday, and I was talking about being a mother and how it was really hard for me to shift from motherhood to then the workforce. And I don't want to make that mistake again. I don't want to have, I want to be very concise about the next steps in my life. So I'm hoping that this helps women, because I know we've got some young women on the call, some that don't have kids yet, and just knowing where your life journey goes and that it's okay to stop and assess it and find your purpose at this stage in life. And I know that that's what's so unique about all the women in the Policy Circle Network is that they came here because they saw a problem in their local community or in their state or in the federal government, and they want to take ownership over those solutions, and they're each trying to find their purpose in that role. So there's so much synergy here. And then the next question I have is, you kind of talked about why you chose the path. And I know, isn't there like history of you like in grade school always being the fundraiser and always being the person that is tell me about that.
When I was in elementary school, one of my most memorable stories, now I always I would run for office. I always wanted to be in charge of things. At one point in my life, I thought that I would be an attorney because I could debate. And I think you grow up as a child and sometimes our parents, tell us, be a doctor, be an attorney, be this, because they want the best for you. And they may see, this is what will be fruitful for your life. This will be profitable for you. And so these are just some of the careers that I initially thought of. But thinking about who I was at the time, I would always design posters and tell people story about who they were when they were running for something, or I would volunteer to write something about, what was happening in the school. And one of the stories I remember distinctively was we had a field trip to Springfield, and It's like home of Lincoln, right? Home of Abraham Lincoln. And, we're excited. We're seventh graders. And one of my friends, she lost her field trip slip. And I remember going home and getting on my little word processor. I recreated her field trip slip. I redid the logo. I did a lot. It was definitely illegal and I was falsifying documents. It was a white collar crime for my age, but in my mind, I was helping her,
Yeah.
I cared enough about her that I didn't want her to miss this experience.
Aww.
And I knew, now my school didn't see it in that way. I had some, leaders who were like, you shouldn't go on a field trip. And I was a really good student. And so I was kind of in shock that I would get in trouble for this, but it also let me know I had boundaries too. I was not above the law. But, when I think about that moment, I think about how passionate, even at 13 or 12 or 13 years old, I was about my friend having access to something to make her better or to make sure that she can learn and, to have an experience that we all get to experience so that she can, come back and talk about it and she wouldn't be left out. And as a 13-year-old, you don't process that information at that time. And that's why for me, and I know we'll talk about your creative love story, that's a part of my creative love story, is that sometimes you have to go back to the moments where you were operating in your purpose or you were doing something incredibly helpful for someone that came natural, that you just didn't think that it was impactful at the time, and sometimes you have to go back and there's a pattern. You'll find that you have these patterns of extraordinary events that have been changing people's lives. And even though I was a 12-year-old, 13-year-old at the time, I knew then that I was very passionate about helping people, that I would go out my way and do those types of things. And so that's part of the reason I see that fast forward now in my 30s, I see how I'm still doing that type of work. And I've completely transitioned into doing that work because I'm now operating in my own superpower. And I'm able to reflect on my journey. And so that's my little story.
Love it. I love that. And this is great because all the gals on the call right now, I hope you're thinking about a time past, right? Like, I think if we take time to look at some of the things that we've done, and then it can fuel us for the future, because so many times, like, in our society, everything moves so fast, right? Social media, everything is like this. We think that we're supposed to be doing something amazing every single day. Like, what did I do that was great today? Well, I did the dishes and I did the laundry, and that's a pretty big win. But it's like, if you look back, it's like, okay, if I look at last month, right? If you look at your life in like last year, how many great things did you do in a year? And I think that we really need to reflect on what we've done in the past so that it does fuel us for the future. And I want the women on the call to be thinking about their past, because it's so important in creating that love story. Because when you were asking me those questions yesterday, all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, like, when have I really stopped to reflect on some of the cool things? I think we just go to the next moment, right? Like, all right, next moment, what's now?
We just move on. And then our life sometimes becomes mundane because we're just operating. This world allows you to just keep going and keep going. We're on this, especially when you're a leader, right? My mission is to provide creative fuel for the dream chasers and the overthinkers. And part of my mission, the reason why that's my mission is because I'm an overthinker too. And I think it's selfish to help yourself and not help others. As I'm in my journey and I'm ever evolving, people should be ever evolving with you. It should be a domino effect. And one of my, I'm releasing another episode next week, and I interviewed Kevin Carroll, and he wrote the book, The Rules of the Red Rubber Ball. And he really talks, he in the interview, he says to me, at night, and I think it's a study or psychologists say, if at night you write down 3 things that happened great for you that day, and why, and why it happened, why was it great, and you're grateful in that moment, then you won't have restless sleep, and you'll overthink less. And so I think we have to find more moments of gratitude so that we can start to really operate in our purpose and move past some of the things that may be more mundane.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the second time I've heard that recently, is to not actually, another gentleman, a podcast I listened to said, reflect, when you're in bed at night, think of a few things that, even very simple things like, I had a wonderful conversation with somebody, the checkout girl at the grocery store, right? Like, it was very positive, it was joyful, just these small things and acts of gratitude is really important for our mental health. Plug, we're doing a mental health brief. We've put out a mental health brief, and we're doing a webinar on mental health June 23rd. So ladies, extremely important for our functioning and our love story, right? That our mental health be on point. So I think this is a great little webinar for our leaders before we go into the mental health brief. So thank you for helping us tee this up so well, Andrea. So, okay. So this is one of the questions that I think is so cool after getting to know you better is talking about our personal life as a brand. So, and I love, I'm just teeing you up for that question because I love your answer to it. So why should our ladies, all of our dream chasers and our overthinkers on this call right now, why should they be thinking of their personal life as a brand?
I mean, it's interesting because we often associate a brand with a business, right? If we think about our favorite brands, someone may say Apple or Nike or Nordstrom's. We think about those, but we're brands too. And if we think about why those businesses or companies are our favorite brands, is because we have a covenant with them. And you are a brand because you have a covenant with the world as well. And an interesting thing about a brand, it really is your public perception. It's how you show up in the world every day, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I like to say that because we can't control what people say about us when we're not in the room, And I think it was Jeff Bezos that said a brand is what people say when you're not in the room. And so we really have to kind of think about how we show up and how people perceive us. And not in a way where we get wrapped up in being so self-conscious that someone's going to judge us, but just being conscious of the fact that this is who I want to show up as in the world, taking ownership and control of how you want to show up, controlling your own narrative. The other thing I like to say that a personal brand is, it's your peers, and PEERS. It's your personality, it's your expertise, it's your experience, it's your reason, and it's your story. And so it's your peers. And I love that it spells peers because your peers are your friends. They're close to you. So your personality is close to you. Your experience is close to you. Your expertise, your reason, your story. Story is important. There are studies that show that when you start to share your story, your narrative, there are different parts of the brain that light up when it comes to storytelling. And so, it's a different form of connectivity and emotion. People tell you how they feel first when they interact with you. So that is what a brand is. That is why it's important to think about yourself as a personal brand, and really the definition of a personal brand. And I would say the work that I do is just kind of the act of personal branding. And it's the work that I encourage my clients to do and friends. And that's really, like I said earlier, intentionally shaping the perception of your peers to the world. You're taking ownership of that. You're deciding what platforms you want to be on. You're deciding what rooms you want to enter. You're deciding what networks you want to be a part of. You're deciding what problem you want to solve and associate yourself with. So that's the part of personal branding. It's really taking action on shaping the perception of your peers. Remember, your personality, your experience, your expertise, your reason, and your story to the world. You're taking action. And the beauty of that is it gives you the confidence to really lead in an authentic space. Once you start to think about yourself as a brand and you take action on how you want to be perceived in the world, and take ownership of that, you can confidently lead in your authentic space. I think there's a saying that says, leaders are built, not born. And I don't believe that. I do not believe that at all. I think that leadership is an instinct that is either dormant or active, depending on your situation. And many of us are not leading because we're not in our authentic spaces. We're not in authentic situations that allow us to lead. I mean, even if we think about our creative love story and going back to childhood, there's someone who decides to lead a line to the bathroom, they're leading, right? They're showing some form of leadership. That's a space where they felt comfortable to lead their peers, to say, hey, I know where the restroom is. I can take you there. And it may seem small now, but in that moment, that was their authentic space to lead. But I think that we're all leaders. And I think if we think of ourselves as leaders, but perhaps we just haven't activated, it's laying dormant, we can start to really see some impact, and we can really start to like activate, our superpower. And so that's what I think of as to why it's important to build a brand.
So really, it's the creative love story to connect all these dots. The creative love story is used to find that superpower that is unique to you, because we all have something that is unique to us, and then we can channel that for our best purpose in life, right? Am I getting that? Am I understanding? Yep. Okay.
That's exactly it. And I'll also say this. I want to grab this. It's kind of far away from me, further than I wanted it to be, but because I like to use
you go. We'll look at that beautiful picture in your background.
But the other thing is, when we think about our activating our superpower, and so I'm going to bring it down to like literally when I think about our peers, because I'm a visual learner, and I know some people are. So when I think about this Hoberman cube, many of us who are part of the policy circle, we have this extensive life. So think about, this is my personality, all of my experience, my expertise, my why over the last 20 or 30 years, my story, my reason. Your superpower is this. It's that one memorable thing. How do you sum it down to this one thing that is impactful to the group of people that you're speaking with? How do you sum it down to your unique value proposition? It's literally how you emotionally, functionally, and collectively show up in the world. That's literally what it is. It is not your position. It is not your role. And it's important to know that, because so many of us struggle with transitioning into different roles in our lives. Like you mentioned, I think you mentioned motherhood earlier, and we can struggle with transitioning from certain things, because even as a mom, that's your role and that's your position in life. But there are things that you're great at functionally and emotionally and collectively that you've activated, that you've used within your superpower to raise your children, And so that's your role and your position at the time, but your superpower never leaves you. It's wherever you are. And so when I think about, another example is a dermatologist. If I think about a dermatologist, I would say that functionally, they make your skin healthier, right? That's the functional benefit of a dermatologist. They make your skin healthier. They may make your skin more appealing. When we think about functional benefits, and even in marketing, it makes you faster. We make you faster. We make you safer. We make you feel more powerful. We make you connected, educated, and educated like the policy circle. That's a functional benefit, right? We keep you educated on what's going on in the world with policies. The emotional benefit of a dermatologist may be that they make you feel confident. They make you feel confident and secure. Now, collective is the thing we miss. And I think it's the most important thing in our superpower. And I wouldn't say that the ladies of the policy circle miss this, because you're part of the policy circle. You are discussing different things that affect human beings, that collective impact. And when I think about a dermatologist, that collective impact may be helping in the mental health, helping in mental health awareness, right? We may not always connect mental health with dermatology, but if we go deeper, we'll know that a person who may be feeling insecure about their appearance, they may fall into a depression, right? And then they may start to, that's, depression is a mental illness, and so I would think that your collective impact for someone who's a dermatologist may be speaking on topics of mental health awareness, right? Because it relates to your passion and your love for helping people feel good about themselves, confidence, secure, bringing healthier skin, but I also care about this greater cause. And the
Right.
world wants people to care about greater causes. And so your superpower is how do you emotionally, functionally, and collectively share who you are with the world, right?
Mhm.
So that's literally what your superpower is. That's what this little thing is. You know,
Yep.
you take all of those things and you sum it down to all of my experience, all of my peers. This is how I functionally, emotionally, and collectively show up. So
Mhm. I love it. I love it. And now I want all the ladies on the call to get a pad of paper and some pen because Lindria is going to send me down the creative love story route. And so I'm going to tell you more about me than I've ever wanted to share, ladies. And but keep keep if you do nothing else, just remember the questions and we'll put them in a follow-up too, because we are going to want to hear your creative love story from our members and that sort of thing to see how you can build on them and use your superpower for good. So Lindrea, let's start the workshop part where we begin. And
I love it. I love it. So Judy, whenever, I interact with a client or even with a friend, I ask, what's your creative love story? Right. And I think that everyone is creative. We try to box creativity into a field, right, or industry. And being creative is literally being a problem solver. You are a problem solver. You have taken risk in your life. You've ignored doubt, and you may have faced some fears to do something that you absolutely love to do. I think sometimes we overuse the word passion, but love is something to me more powerful because those are the things you may even do for free. And so, Judy, I'd love to hear your creative love story.
yeah, well, it's funny because when you were asking me the questions yesterday so that we could kind of prep for this, I didn't tell you this, is that going way back to childhood, like when I was a toddler and my mom would take me to the grocery store, she would lose me in the grocery store because I would just go off and talk to people. And so naturally at a young age, I was very extroverted. Now, I need my quiet time. So my kids will remind me, they're like, mom's getting a little fussy. She needs her quiet time. So I have an introvert part of me too. But from as early as I could tell, I was always getting in trouble in school for talking, like my last name was Dennis and I had a nun for, and it was, Dennis, you got a voice like a foghorn. And that was, boy, that just made me feel great. And then I went into communications, radio and television. So I showed her that I was going to use my foghorn voice for good. And so really my creative love story has been talking to people. I love people. I love hearing their stories. I don't need to talk about my story very often. I just love to hear about theirs. And also, what really resonated with me with my creative love story was my children, because I wanted so badly, like when I just wanted to be a mom. That was I'm a mom and I wanted 15 kids until I had 3 of them. And then I said, ooh, 3 is enough. And, but I really think that the way that I was able to manage teenagers, because now they're all grown and they're all functioning adults and doing wonderful, but bringing together their friends and in our house, because our house was the fun house, we had the pool, we had the ping pong table, the pool table, and bringing them all together, and they were respectful. I could get them to do chores for me. I could get them to pick up after themselves. I never really had a problem with the teenagers. And I think my kids, number one, appreciate that because I made a very loving, open home for them and nurtured a lot of relationships with those teenagers. And some of them, I didn't even know their parents. I mean, their parents were not very much in their life. So I felt like I was able to really instill good, purposeful values with them and love and an open life to them. So that really kind of is what I think has defined my my love story and has shown that I'm really good at, and I enjoy bringing people together. I really enjoy. I don't need to be the chief leader, or I just love to bring people together to make sure, like, if there's a party, everybody feels good, right? Is everybody happy? Is there a lonely person in the corner? Because I'll find them and I'll make sure they have a good time. So I feel like that's always kind of been maybe my superpower. I don't know.
Yeah. What brought you to the policy circle? What
It,
drew you to the policy circle?
Yeah, a long winding journey. When I was transitioning from staying at home, it was a really difficult time for me because I had made my whole perception around being a mother. Like that was my life. I thought, and it was a purpose, but again, I don't think I had really thought about that I was more than the sum of that total, I guess. There was more to me than just being a mom. And so preparing for the transition was a little bit more challenging. And I kept going from just like part-time job to part-time job to, like, I just need to work a little bit. And then I started subbing in my kids' school. So I substitute taught for 6 years and then moved from that to my son had a birthday party, his 10th birthday party. We, instead of asking for gifts, we asked for donations for a missionary school in our community. And so the following Monday, my son and I went and delivered $150 and all these gifts for the classrooms for this missionary school. And after that, after talking to the principal, she hired me. It was like, oh my gosh, you're doing more for our school than our development director. So I came in and was working for them part-time, and then the development director left and I was moved into that position. And I have a degree in, radio, television, and communications, and I had worked events through my volunteering. And so just kind of generally working in the education field at my kids' school, doing volunteer projects, and then moved to be development director. And I started seeing so much in policy, how the policy was affecting the school. The school was doing a great job, but it was just the poor principal would spend more time getting the lunch menu to follow federal guidelines than she was helping the parents of these kids and doing all these other things. So I just saw how policy was really making the education system difficult. So I started doing research on that, which led me to another organization, which then I worked for 5 years, and which introduced me to the policy circle, which I volunteered for as a circle leader for 2.5 years, and was working on political campaigns at that time. And when the campaigns were over, I didn't have a job. And one of the founders found out and said, I'd like to bring you on board. So it was really just a journey of working in spaces that I really, really enjoyed. I really enjoyed working in the education field. I enjoyed doing events, just a combination of just continuing to do things that I liked and where I felt passionate about led me to the policy circle. So, it's the winding road that I think a lot of our women probably are on,
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting when I was listening to your creative love story, and I think about the functional benefits that you offer. And there's something incredible about being a relationship builder. And, I think I told you this before, you're a relationship builder. And I think what's unique about that is that you know how to build relationships across generations. And not everyone has to give to do that. Not everyone has the patience to even bring children together. Some people, children come into the room, you go into the other room, even if they're not, if you're operating, if it's your home, it's like, I'll leave that to somebody else, or I'll hire somebody to do that, but to be able to build relationships across generations and gain that and have them, they trust you, people trust you to build relationships. And I think that's part of your functional benefit. Part of your functional benefit of your superpower. The emotional benefit is that you know how to bring joy. Even thinking about how your home was with the ping pong tables and the things, you, in a way, is entertaining, but the result of entertainment is joy, right? Is feeling a sense of, belonging, right? And so how to make people have this sense of belonging, right? In the spaces that you're in. When I think about your collective benefit, there's something powerful in education just kept coming to me, because it was just kind of, it felt like there was a through line, even with substituting. There's something incredible about having a heart for educating people to be better in anything that they're pursuing. And so even with being at the school and substitute teaching, that's a form of education. But also with the policy circle, the through line here is that you're connecting people using your gift of relationship building to connect people to educational resources so that they can impact policy making, right? And so you're a connector. And so it's important to identify what your superpower is, because if you weren't at the policy circle, if you move somewhere else, you can be a connector and a relationship builder and make sure people are educated about different resources, and I think that the beauty in that is that, like when you were saying you were a mom, you were a mom, you are a mom, you are a mom, you are a mom, is that, like I said earlier, that transition sometimes is difficult, right? When we don't know, we say, this is who I am. I am, I am a mom, which you are a mom. But I think if we change our mindsets to say that, in my role, one of my roles is a mother. It's like a person who says one of my roles is being a wife. One of my roles is being a manager at my job. But this is who I am. This is how I connect with people. This is my functional benefits. This is how I make people feel, because you can do that with any type of human being that you connect with. It never leaves you. It just goes with you along your journey. And it's good to identify it early on, so that you can make authentic connections and you can be comfortable with leading in something, because everyone won't see your superpower. They'll try to position you to do things that they want you to do. And I'm just saying, generally speaking, people want you to do because it adds value to them. And I say, whenever we go into a role or a position, we have to walk in with a level of authority to say that this is a partnership that we're forming. Anytime I coach people who are work and who are emerging leaders, and they're like, I'm trying to get this promotion, or if they're interviewing for a job, always know that this is a collaboration. That's one of my values. Go into anything feeling like you need me just as much as I need you, because I have my own values. I have a superpower that I'm bringing to your team. So let's just make sure there's some synergy here, so that we make an authentic connection here, and I can authentically lead in this space and be comfortable. And so that's a little bit of my diagnosis. Just kind of digging deeper into, your creative love story and who you are. And I'll share my screen to, and I guess as I'm sharing my screen, Judy, does that all make sense to you?
It does, yeah. And it's really interesting how, when I reflect, because I haven't done a lot of reflecting on that before you were asking me those questions yesterday. It's like, wow, my superpower has shown its face throughout the years. Like it keeps coming up. I just didn't realize that that's what it was. And so now it's like, oh my gosh, now that I know that that's it, I feel like I can nurture it in a much better way. So it's like, oh, wow, I would have put a new cape on, right? Like I just can, my superpower has a new meaning to me, and and I know that you want to run us through your 4Ds, right?
Yeah, I'll run us through it quickly. But yeah, that's exactly it. And let me know did it share?
Yeah, I can see it.
You can see it? Oh, I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Let's see, slideshow. Is it the screen? Okay, so this is my 4D brand experience, because I think when 4D, your brand should never be flat. It should never be flat. It should be 4-dimensional. It should be whole. And so what part of my process and my strategy is really to define, declare, design, and disseminate. That's what I help my clients do. And what we did today with Judy was really we're in the process of defining, what her creative love story, and her sharing her creative love story, which continues to evolve, will help to really define what her values are, what her mission is, how she wants to show up in the world, and a problem that she wants to actually solve. And I think that it's important for us to really take the time, like Judy said, it's reflect. That define part is really a reflecting part. It's really to kind of literally look into your identity. I was telling Judy that I spoke with my business coach, and she asked me, what do I do? She was like, what do you do? And I was like, I'm a brand strategist. And, she was like, that's generic. Everybody's a brand strategist. And I thought hard and long about it, and it was something that that was important to me. But I always think of myself as a brand DNA strategist. That's the core of who I am. I do see your value beyond the surface. I see people as humans first. We're all different. We have different interests. We may look different, but at the core of who we are humans. That's the one thing we all have in common. And I try to see people as humans so I can understand why they operate the way they operate and why they do what they love to do. And so I think many of us have to go back to like the human side of us, and really define what we do and why we love to do it, and not always think about our associations, right? Our associations are our jobs. Our associations may be, even parenthood, or being a mate to your spouse, or political parties. Sometimes we just have to come back to who am I, and why do I love to do what I do, and what was I created for? So that's the reflection part, and then you can identify what your values are. I mentioned what my values were, in terms of good stewardship and diversity and inclusion and empathy, and integrity. And so when you identify what your values are, you're able to make authentic connections, and you're able to lead in authentic spaces, because you want to be associated with people. They may not look like you or share a lot of things that you share, but you want to associate yourself with people who do share your values too, because that means that you have synergy. And I think that's really important. The next step is declaration. So now that you know what your values are, you've probably written your mission statement. So your mission statement may be, I advocate for this. I empower women to identify how they want to show up in the world every day. That's an example of a possible mission statement for you, Judy. But once you've identified what your mission statement is, your values, if your values are education, if your value is connectivity, you go into the declaration phase, which is really your messaging. And what I do is messaging pillars, really identifying maybe 3 ways you want to connect with people online and offline. And so, I want to make sure I talk about advocating for this. I want to talk about, or I want to inspire people to do this on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is my platform, and that's how I'm going to use that platform to inspire people. So how do you want to declare and position yourself in the world, right? So that's what the declaration phase is. It's really positioning and identifying what your messaging looks like. For me, something that's huge are bios. I love bios, but I hate boring bios. Boring bios, literally, we talk about, I was in this role and I impacted this. No, I started my bio by saying, I'm a creative enthusiast with an obsession with brand development, because that's who I am. That's a part of my biography. That's my DNA. Your bio is your DNA. It's your peers. Of course, it's your peers. Remember, it's kind of summarized, but you want to start off with something that's impactful, that will literally connect with someone on a human level, that would possibly make them smile, or possibly give them an aha moment to say, oh, okay, I never thought about that. And so it's your unique value proposition. And so bios are part of the declaration phase and messaging. The other step is design. So design might be a speaker kit. It may be, a website, a personal website. I'm a fan of personal websites because it's yours. It's your own media. And own media is so important because you have the opportunity to shape your perspective. You shape your narrative. Your website, your social media platforms, that's your own media. And so I love design, because now you're telling people, based on my values, based on my mission statement, now that I know what my superpower is, this is how I want to look when I show up to the world, right? So this may empower you to get a new headshot, because your old headshot may not fit who the new you are right now, right? And you might want to do a different photo with a different type of background that really illustrates who you are. It really illustrates your values. And so headshots are a part of your design. Personal websites are a part of your design. Even the color choices that we make are a part of our design. How do you want people to feel? If one of your superpowers is exuding joy, what colors exude joy? Is it yellows? Is it oranges? Also thinking about where you are in the world and what those colors mean. But what if we think about McDonald's, some of our favorite brands, red and yellow, I believe history shows it represents ketchup and mustard. Like some of it is, but colors mean something, right? Color means something, typography means something, the lettering that we choose, and so design is really important because that's the visual element of how you show up to the world. And last is disseminate. And disseminate, I love disseminate because it's literally choosing the platforms. Some of us think we need to be on Clubhouse. Some of us think we need to be on Facebook. We need to be in this network. We need to be a part of this private group. We don't. The beauty in define, because I always like to start with define, is defining who you are and what your values are and what you stand for, is that you will know where you don't need to be. You'll know that the Clubhouse may not be for me. It's just
I don't even know what Clubhouse is, so I know it's not for me. So that's how nerdy I am. So
but you really get to understand where you're supposed to be and where you're supposed to authentically connect with people, and also where you're supposed to authentically lead, right? So you're really identifying that it's that dissemination strategy is really identifying where you share your superpower. It's where you want to actually be. It's literally doing the research and identify, even if let's think about a place of employment. Is that location where you want to share your brand? Once you've done your research on them, do they fit your 4D brand experience? Is it a good fit for you? Does it help you to reach your goals? And I didn't even mention this, I'm sorry. In the define stage, I also talk about short-term and long-term goals too. Because I think you still have to be strategic, especially with where you are. And then you just start all over again once you get to a new part of life, But the beauty in it is, I believe that even with thinking about marketing, and I'm always thinking about marketing, is that once you define who you are and you authentically declare it, you design it, and you disseminate it, you build affinity with people. You build brand affinity with people because you're being authentic, you're leading with integrity, and you're just shining. You're able to just kind of authentically connect with people, and you build affinity and trust with people. I mean, that's literally what you do. You build affinity and trust with people. Something that makes, like Sprout Social says, something that makes a brand stand out is that memorable content, a distinct personality, and a compelling storytelling, right? We can't be afraid to share our stories with people, because that's the human connection, right? That's how that happened to me. If you'll be surprised, what I love about the policy circle is that you get to meet different women that you may have never thought to have a conversation with. And even yesterday, you just may have never thought to have a conversation with them, but you'll find that your stories, even if you live in different neighborhoods, or you had different educational experiences, or even if you vote differently, a lot of our stories overlap. We've experienced a lot of the same things, just in different ways. And so it's so important to share your story, because that is the one thing that is authentic to you and is relatable to people. I think I mentioned earlier about making authentic connections. The Edelman report, I love the Edelman Trust Barometer report. And one of the infographics that they shared, or data points, is that, a lot of spokespeople are losing credibility. But what stood out to me was, people want on this infographic, it says that they want to hear from academic experts, but number two is they want to hear from people like them. I want to hear from people like me.
I love that. And hey, Policy Circle women, did you just hear that? I mean, that's huge for us, so that's great.
They want to hear from, and then it's CEOs, and then it's government officials, and then there's a journalist, right? Because I think we give a lot of people more authority than they actually have, right? And so if we think about what people actually care about, they want to hear from you as a human. What's your story? How do you connect with me? sometimes it's not good to lead with probably your political side, right? You may say, I'm a very proud Democrat. I'm a very proud conservative. Lead with the human side. I'm a very proud, I'll just say relationship builder. I'm a very proud relationship builder who cares about educating women. That's connectivity, right? Because of the associations of political parties, people already have in their minds, they already have perceptions of what that is. So they've associated you with one of these sides of the aisle that you may not even believe in. So start with who you are and what you offer. Start with your superpower, because that's the human connection with people.
Right.
So that's that. And then I just wanted to end with this: being warm and competent. One of the books that I have my students reading is The Human Brand, and it's by Susan Fisk and Chris Malone. And it really has a study about how brands over time have had to be warm and competent. There are a lot of intelligent people in this world that struggle with connecting with people because they don't connect on a warm level. They're not approachable. They may not be polite, and that you have to be warm. Warmth also is empathy, right? And so how do you connect with people being both warm and competent? Something that I found very valuable too with warmth and competency is having immersive experiences with people. This world has us going so fast that we're on social media. That's as immersive as we get. We're scrolling. Oh, that's great that they were in that place. Oh, I can see myself in that place. Or even if we think about the policy circle briefs, it allows us to be competent because we're getting these great data points and different perspectives from experts on why some of the issues why we have some of these issues in the world. But even taking that to another level outside of reading about data, how do you immerse yourself in other people's experiences? If you value education or mental health or health, how do you perhaps put yourself in a room with someone who has experienced these things so you can fully understand their experience, right? That's human connectivity, right? And that's also another level of competency, right? Even if you think another level of research, right? Because you're actually seeing how something happens or how someone feels and you're in their actual space. Marketers use it. I remember someone telling me, a marketer, I think she was with Unilever, and she said how she literally walked into, when she was marketing, I want to say not the Pamper, that's with P&G. She was marketing some brand, but she literally went to the neighborhoods that she was trying to market to, and she went into their stores to kind of see what their process of purchasing was. And she talked to the people to understand, why they purchased this product, how far did they have to walk from their home to this store. And she kind of went into this whole immersive experience, which was a little out of her comfort zone, but it helped her to better understand who she was talking to. And so that's another part of competency, and also being warm. Speak to your micro, but be aware of your macro. Your micro, your inner circle, it may be your political parties, it may be your circle. It may be your circle, but be aware of your macro. What's going on with the economy? What's going on in politics? What's going on with laws? What's going on with people who don't even live in my neighborhood, but I know the thing I care about affects them. Sometimes they're part of your macro, but just being aware of what's going on in your macro and your micro. And I would say the last thing is perform a brand audit. That's what I would leave you all with. Go and look at everything that you're doing. Look at your bio, look at your social media platforms, think about your love story, and see if this is authentically who you are and this is the human connection you want to have with people. Ask yourself, am I fully sharing my superpower with the world with all of my brand touch points right now? Am I doing that? And then how can I start to maybe shift some of my messaging? Maybe I changed my brand declaration a little bit. Maybe my design isn't quite what I want it to be, or maybe I'm on a platform that I don't even care about because I'm not even engaging. I'm not even interacting with these people. Right. But that's it. That's literally a little bit of my process.
I love that. And doing the personal brand audit, that's a big deal because, like I'm on Facebook. I'm never on Facebook. Like I don't engage in it. I get messages on it. Like I just don't engage. I've still got a very old photo of me on. So I'm like, that's not doing me any good. Why do I even have it there? I need to do a brand audit on that. But what I really want everybody to know is that they do have a superpower. Everybody on this call has a superpower. And I love that you drove that home. What is it? We've only got 5 more minutes. So I've got like one question to ask you to get people rolling on their creative love story. How do they get rolling on that? What's the best question for them to like kind of ask themselves to kind of like start thinking about their creative love story to walk them towards their superpower?
Yeah, I would say the first question I would ask myself, I would say ask yourself is, you know, what do I love to do? And it's so simple. What do I love to do and would do it for free? Like, what do I love to do? And then you'll find yourself, you literally will go down a rabbit hole. And you start to identify, okay, what do I love to do? And I would do it for free. I would also say, a part of my process that I didn't mention is with some clients, I do brand advocacy surveys. I ask their peers, people that they trust, what are they good at? What is that one thing? What are they good at? What are their strengths? What are some of their challenges? Because you'll find that people who are advocating for you or championing for you, they'll be honest with you and tell you, you've always been great at this. Or, I think you think you're great at this, but this is how this actually made me feel, right? People will tell you how you made them feel. Some of us may think we are extraordinarily empathetic leaders, but you'll ask your advocate, how did my leadership make you feel? They may say it made me feel small. So you may not be as empathetic as you think you are, right? And so then your next step is, what do I need to do? If that's not my strength, but I know I need to be more empathetic so that I can, be in this next position, or, you have to kind of start to do that self-reflection. That was my long-winded answer. And I know we're running out of time.
That's great. I think that's a really great question to just ask yourself. What am I passionate about? What really, lights me up and that I would do for free? It's kind of like, besides faking documents for a 13-year-old to go on a field trip. But I mean, right? Like that was something that really showed you that, wow, I'm passionate to help other people get to do something that is going to be fun or educational for them. So ladies on the call, start asking yourself that. And, what are you passionate about? Because we can take all of this and you can increase your professional brand, right? If you have your own company or you're working within a company and you need to be thinking about this, how you can bring more value to your own company through your superpower. And then also how you can just bring more fulfillment in your own life, really tapping into your superpower. So do you have any last parting words? We had a question about, if you're not feeling confident, but you probably have a superpower and you want to be a leader, but you're not feeling confident. Did you have a words of wisdom for confidence?
I would say my first question would be is, why? Why don't you feel confident, right? There's something underlying there that would, and I think sometimes there are things that have happened in our lives that we probably haven't tapped into that have brought our confidence down, and so I would say, why don't you feel confident? What has brought you to that moment? Is it because when you speak, someone speaks over you, so you don't think people care about what you're talking about? Is it because I don't know. I don't want to project, but I would say just identify what it is that is making you feel like you're not confident. But I honestly believe that once you start to ask those questions about identify what your superpower is and talk to those people even talking to those people in your circle, they'll help you build more confidence because they'll tell you what you're great at. And then if you're operating in that, you start to operate in that, you will build your confidence.
Right.
you know, because you're being authentic to yourself. A lot of us are not confident because we're doing things that are not authentic to ourselves. We're in rooms or talking to people about things that we really don't even care about. It's like, you know, for different reasons. It may be to keep a job. It may be, you know, because it's something that our spouse loves. So we're just there, you know, it's so you have to find a thing that you love, you know, and then your confidence will increase. I think confidence is a result of activating your superpower.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for doing this with us. You are a complete joy. And we put her podcast in the chat. I'm pointing as if you guys can see the chat. So really, seriously, listen to the podcast. It's joyful. It is inspiring. It will give you more points along this way of your creative love story and finding your superpower, because we want you guys, all of our Policy Circle women, you guys are leaders. You're all very special. It will radiate out. And that's what we want. We want strong women in our communities radiating from the inside out. And that's how the world becomes a better place. So, you know, much joy to all of you. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to donate to the Policy Circle to keep this wonderful programming going. Please subscribe to Lindria's podcast. Check out her website. You'll get lots of insight there. And please register for our next Move the Needle webinar about mental health. So that's extremely important, ladies. So sign up. June 23rd at noon is our Move the Needle on mental health. And again, thank you for doing this for us. And thank you everybody for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday and a great weekend. Bye.